Hi, and welcome to ABQ Ride and Art, talking about some of, dispelling some of the myths that have been going on the past couple of months, actually years. And we get a chance today to explain some of them and to better inform you about the project. I'm Rick DeReyes. I'm the Public Information Officer for ABQ Ride. Of course, we're the agency that has Albuquerque Rapid Transit, and soon you'll get a chance to ride that up and down Central. And with us today to help us explain a little bit more about it is our Deputy Director at ABQ Ride and also the Project Manager for the entire art project, Dana Crawford. Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. Thanks, Rick.
One of the things we wanted to talk about, first of all, was the fact that as of the taping of this particular segment, the art project is now 55% complete.
It is.
And people can see more and more of it if they can go up and down the corridor.
Absolutely right. What's kind of fun about this is folks that were like really negative to begin with about the project, a particular business owner comes to mind. He actually called Friday and he said, "This is great. I finally see the vision. I see what you guys are doing. This makes sense. You should call the media." It was very funny. And so we suggested that he call the media, and sure enough, one of the stations came out and did a story, and he just raved on it. And I can't tell you how unhappy he was just 3 months ago. So that's a big turnaround. But people can start to see it. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, but when they were first planning the Albuquerque Rapid Transit project, one of the examples we were going to use was a guy who had been a florist in Phoenix.
Right.
And that this guy was against it, put money toward it. He even helped fund several legal campaigns against it. And then once they built the light rail, it went right by his place. He said that he couldn't stock enough flowers. He was a florist, and was the shining example of somebody who had been uber negative before and then uber positive. Unfortunately, the guy ended up selling his business to someone else.
To his son.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
So it's kept it in the family. But that's what we were told from the get-go, that people, once they could actually see it. I mean, a vision is a hard thing to see, and this is definitely complete change for our community. So it's tough, and it's been tough on business.
And it's like it's almost like recreating downtown or something. It is the largest public works project in the history, in Albuquerque's history. And of course, being done in just that little short time is really been a feat. A lot of people have had to really, kind of bite the bullet a bit, but it's eventually we're hoping that the negatives will be far outweighed by the positives.
Absolutely.
Well, one of the things we wanted to do, and one of the things we created, because there were so many misconceptions about what was going on, that the art project created with these things called Mythbusters to dispel the myths that were going on. And we did them with a series of postings on not only on the website for www.brtabq.com, but also on social media as well. And we wanted to go through some of them. One of the things that was, the reason it was number one is very interesting. There was always this debate about parking spaces. Our truth number one, a total of 50 parking spaces will be added to the Central Avenue corridor. A lot of people said, once you get all this done, I guess you're cutting out some of these parking spaces and actually adding.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in some places, and my favorite example is there at Cornell, where it used to be Mark's Guitar, but it's a clothing shop now. There were parking places in front of them. But because we had to put the station there, we moved them east, but the same parking spaces are there. I mean, they're just moved east slightly. And then we are also adding 99 spaces of a park-and ride out at New Mexico Expo. And that's right across the street from the Louisiana station.
So where, say for instance now, instead of parking over at you can park inside when you go to the state fair. You can use part of that park and ride to be able to get to and from where you're going. It's going to be one of the things they'll be using. In addition to using ART to go to some of the great events in the city, from the Nob Hill Stroll to the state fair, for instance, and
Well, in both those instances, we have a park and ride out at Unser and Central for the west side, and then Uptown Transit Center. So you could park your car at either one of those places and go to the state fair, go to the Nob Hill Stroll, go to Pope Joanne dinner, that kind of thing. You get on one seat and you're there.
Or theoretically, if you're working in downtown, now with the ART coming every 7 to 8 minutes.
That's also true.
You can pop into wherever you want on West Central or East or Eastern downtown, Edo, or even Nob Hill, and go eat and come back.
Absolutely.
Well, the second ART truth is that ART truth number 2, there will be an additional 30 trees planted along with 4,000 native and drought-tolerant plants and shrubs. A lot of people, when we first told them that we were going to have to clean the medians to be able to put the bus lanes, they said, where are the plants going?
Well, right. And then the other thing I think people didn't realize is that urban trees, because of the smog, because of the things that they have to deal with, have a short lifespan. So those trees that were out there were nearing the end of that lifespan, and that lifespan is usually 20 to 25 years. So a lot of them we took out were diseased. So they were in the process of dying anyway. So what we've been able to do is add 30 additional trees, and we'll have over 343 trees out there, and then, like you say, 4,000 drought-tolerant plants and shrubs.
And already, if you're driving through the corridor, you can see it's exciting to see.
Looks cool with the widened sidewalks and all.
Yes, well, we're going to be
that's
getting
one
to
of
that
those
in just a
others.
moment.
Oh, right, all
yes.
right.
Our truth number 3: protected left turns will be provided on an average at every 1,300 feet. We heard people say, "Oh my God, our left-hand turns are going. We can no longer do them," but these were never protected left-hand turns.
Right, and so you're in a foot race or a car race with the oncoming traffic. And that left-hand turn across oncoming traffic is the most dangerous turn that motorists make. And we have a huge high pedestrian fatality rate on Central, as well as car accidents and so forth. So this really, in addition to being assistance to the transit system, it's also going to be a safety issue for our community.
And right now, if you go to a major intersection, you decide to make a left-hand turn, you get an arrow, and you think, okay, I can pull a U-turn on that. It's not a protected U-turn.
Right.
And you also are subject to the vagaries of whoever's in the lane that wants to make a right-handed turn even though they have the red. So they figure, well, it's open season, it's my turn, whatever.
Again,
under these new protected left turns, no one will be able to make that
That's
turn
right.
except you.
That's right. That's exactly right. And that's safer for pedestrians as well.
We're looking forward to that. Now, talking about pedestrians, sidewalks will be at 6 feet wide or wider through 97% of the corridor. That's our truth number 4. Already you can see the impact, at least they're working on a different side of the street, but already on some of the sides of the street, you can see where the sidewalk is already expanded.
Right, and Nob Hill is a great example because that's a real pedestrian-heavy place anyway. I've seen, I think it's the Guild Movie Theater. They have taken, the newspaper boxes, the Alibi and the various ones, and so they've taken it off the main drag and put it over there near the landscaping. So now you can walk 4 abreast if you want to. You're not trying to, serpentine through the whole sidewalk. It's much nicer.
And that was one of the things, was to make the area much more walkable. Better lighting.
Right, that's right. We've added all new lighting, so the standard are the white ones that you've always seen in Nob Hill. So they now stretch from Nob Hill out to Coors, and then up to Louisiana as well, the pedestrian.
And speaking of Nob Hill, so many people within the past few weeks have told us, we've been out there on a Friday night, and the place is packed.
Yep.
People are walking it.
Yeah.
To hear some accounts, you would think it'd be a ghost town. But
it's really not.
Yeah, and the restaurants are going as well. To think if construction's going on now, and then there's this level of participation in that neighborhood. Think of what's going on.
I know, isn't that exciting?
Well, once it's done. So we're looking forward to that. Our truth number 5, pedestrian safety is improved in cities with the center lane BRT, bus rapid transit, which our ART is, because of shorter pedestrian crossings and refuge islands at stations. We've gotten more gnashing of teeth over this one, where people say, how am I going to be able to cross with that big thing in the center? Well, you can actually take your time now. You could cakewalk through that. Yeah.
Indeed. So the thing to remember about the stations and how you get to them is to cross only at the dots. And the dots are our new concept, and I hope we'll throw a picture up there, because the dots, unlike just the stripes that you see everywhere in town, they'll actually be dots. So follow the dots to get to the station.
And if you really want, if you are unable to walk unaided, if you use a walker or a cane, crutches, I mean, if you want to, you can really literally take your time and then stop at that station in the middle.
That's exactly right. Let me throw one other thing in there too. So we, transit will have signal priority. But the important thing to remember on this point, no time will ever be taken away from pedestrian crossing. It'll be like a second might be taken out of a motorist light, green light, but never from pedestrian access.
And if somebody wants to take their sweet time, and they can always cross to that middle area where they'll be completely protected. They'll have a lane on one side, a lane on the other, in addition to the platform. And then they can wait there if they want. But if you walk across right now, for instance, we just did it at Louisiana and Central. We walked really comfortably across, and we still had 20 seconds left. It took 40 seconds for that light to go. We had 20 seconds left. I suspect we could have cakewalked, and we still would have made it in plenty of time. All right, truth number 6. Monroe to Girard and University to First will be one lane in each direction and encourage slower, safer Main Street traffic through the commercial districts. This is something that was in a study well before ART was built, that Nob Hill Merchants had commissioned from a gentleman in Michigan. And he said,
Robert Gibbs.
Robert Gibbs. And he said, basically, if you want to get more people to come through your area, you want to slow them down. You don't want to make them go by it like they're going past the signpost on the freeway. In this case, we won't be slowing folks down that much, but it will be encouraging them more to stop and
Right.
see.
He also said that that neighborhood needed to widen the sidewalks, clean it up, if you will. And then, like you say, slow down traffic. And the other thing that he said, he had 4 recommendations. And a fourth thing was that they have a better mix of retail and dining. So that one we can't really help with. But the other 3 we're able to help with. And we could not have done that. We could not have widened sidewalks. We could not do the mill and overlay without this federal money.
And better lighting.
Oh, better lighting too.
One
right.
that encourages folks to be out there. So if they're going to a restaurant, they're coming out at 10 o'clock. The place is well lit. They never have to ever think about, oh, wow, what's around? Is there enough light on the next corner?
Right.
Because there is already, and in some areas you can already see the effects of that lighting. Our truth number 7. To address traffic impacts identified during preliminary design and modeling. Final designs include adjustments to maintain acceptable traffic flow in the neighborhood. Now, this was something that was covered on a legal issue that went to court, and the court actually fully agreed, not only through the lower courts, but the appellate courts in Denver agreed as well, that was what had been. I mean, we're continually, and had to, over the period of years, in the period of public input, make adjustments to this.
Absolutely.
But this is something that is designed to grow with the growth of Albuquerque.
So that one that they're particularly identifying with this art truth is at Rio Grande and Central. Rio Grande and Central right now, without construction, functions at an F. It completely fails as an intersection. So with the modifications that the art design team made, it goes up to a D level, which is not a lot, but it'll make a difference in your day-to-day commute. And it's also, that is the minimum standard in the city of Albuquerque.
And that's only if people are still in their cars. Doesn't necessarily mean that that if you have the convenience of something that's going to move at a consistent speed and not be affected by the line of traffic,
right.
which the rapid rides already are. You
right.
you can wait 2 lights at Rio Grande and Central.
Right.
In your rapid ride, in order for you to get across during heavy traffic periods. In this case, it has its own lane, so you're going at a consistent rate of speed. So you pretty much know that no matter what happens, unless something happens right there in that lane, that you're going to be able to speed through that traffic. Maybe people will abandon their cars through that area. A lot more people, and make it and bring up the traffic weight, or should I say, to make it a lot shorter. You never know. Our truth number 8: there will be at least one lane open in each direction during construction. Access will be maintained to all businesses. That has rung true since the very beginning. You can see that no matter what happens, you can still travel Central.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
We're talking about too that we've had sometimes in reports in news media where people have called and said, "Well, my access was blocked maybe your access may have been blocked for up to for 30 minutes, but the general contractor, Bradbury Stam, has been very, very.
They're doing a great job.
Yeah.
They've been a really great partner.
And they've been very responsive to
They have.
to get that done. And if somebody should have their access blocked.
They do. I call them and they're out there in the field in a heartbeat. The other thing is we track closely how much time we're in front of, say, your business. And if it goes over, I get a reason why, and then I'll go out and talk to the business owner and say, here's what happened. It has been Water Authority, our coordination with Water Authority has been challenging, but they've been good partners too. But you know, unexpected site conditions, what have you. And so really the only place that we have been over is in Edo. And I went and talked to every one of those businesses about what was going on.
Oddly enough, one of the things that we found out when we visited Cleveland in 2012, Cleveland has one of the premier bus rapid transit systems in the country. And they said, no matter how much you prepare, no matter how much the plans tell you, you're going to find pipes you didn't even think were there. And thankfully, we haven't found too much of that, but when we have, we've had to respond quickly to that. We've found it here.
That's absolutely true. Well, you know, you're the historian. You know all the history of the corridor in terms of, like, you know, 1900s. You know, that's when the horse and buggy or the horse-drawn bus was happening and so forth. So, I mean, it's been a main drag for a long time. So it's understandable that we would run into challenges.
Well, the railroad used to pass right through, and they called it Railroad Avenue.
Right.
At some point, they figured, you know, we're not going to be able to have the train pass through our main corridor
and
anymore.
they moved it. Yeah.
But it was one of those. They also had horse-drawn trolleys as well as the electric trolleys, as eventually leading into the buses. We found some old trolley tracks.
We did. Gave it to the museum.
Oh gosh, to think that that was buried there the whole time.
Yes.
That we just put layers of asphalt over it.
Yes.
No buildings. This is our truth number 9. No buildings will be removed or altered at historic Route 66. Will remain intact and open to automobile traffic. Even before there was the plan, or when art was just a little speck in somebody's eye in the city, there was the Route 66 plan already. And that was to preserve the integrity and the basic look of the largest stretch of urban Route 66 through any portion of the United States. It goes contrary to want to rip out something when you already...
Right. Well, that's the cool thing about bus rapid transit, is that it's down the middle of the road. So we're in the public right-of-way. Now, we have had some right-of-way takes, very small, like I think 750 square feet or something like that is the average, but that's been about widening the sidewalks. So we have not touched any buildings, let alone historic buildings.
And just to riff off of this a little bit, already we have had businesses say, or come to Albuquerque and say, you know what, we'd like to get in on this. And nowhere is that bigger than what's going on at right across the street from Presbyterian Hospital. There have been empty lots there for years, as far as I can remember, though I've only been in Albuquerque since about the year 2000 living here. But even as a visitor, I could see those, and those are already been bought up because there's a huge complex plan for that that will be complete after the art project is operational. But we're talking about a hotel and possibly and businesses and condos.
Yes, I think there's supposed to be, I want to say 300 townhouses, condos over there, and at the hotel there'll be a sky bridge from the hotel over to the hospital to aid the families that are staying. You know, just easier to get back and forth if they've got somebody in the hospital for an extended period of time.
So there's a chance that if you've seen an empty lot in and around Central, or a building that's
there's something planned,
a little dilapidated, that's not going to be there for long.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Already you can see the effects of that. Here's something that people have asked us. Our truth number 10. ART will replace rapid ride routes 766 and 777. Local Route 66 Central will remain in operation. You can't ever get rid of that. That's the one that goes to every quarter mile or so.
Right.
But then it also goes with another question that's coming up here later. But this is for the very first time, the rapid rides now won't just serve the Central and Unser Transit Center on the west side or the west side neighborhoods once. there'll be 2 routes that'll go there. That'll be we're doubling the service to the west
To the
side,
west
of,
side,
of
absolutely.
Albuquerque. Now, in doing so, we're talking about how many buses in total servicing? Is it something
Well,
like
16, and then we've got 2 additional that the company that's providing the electric bus is giving us, so that we were a little nervous. We want to make sure everything works right. They're giving us a couple to make sure that we meet our goals.
And right now, it looks like that bus is going to be able to meet its goal because it has been
Yes.
undergoing testing.
Yes, last week I got word that a fully loaded bus with air conditioner on, it ran 280 miles on the Altoona testing track, so that's good news. And then our bus is currently in production, and it is in the paint booth, so that's exciting. But one thing I want to go back to is about the 66. Yes, the 66 will be there, but we've designed the project so that it's not stopping traffic. So it'll be able to pull out and out of traffic so traffic can continue.
There a lot of places along Central already have the
Right, they do,
places
but
for a
all of them
pullout.
will now.
And that's one of the things that ABQ Ride heard during the public
Public meetings.
meetings, especially is what we were going to have in areas where we only had 1 lane going through the area. That the 66 is going to jam traffic. It will not be jamming traffic.
Well, and the other thing, the 1 lane, Nob Hill and Edo specifically, those neighborhoods chose that. That's what they wanted, to slow down their traffic. Otherwise, it's not a huge change for traffic for commuters.
But huge change for the neighborhood. We're talking about East Downtown. There are areas there where buildings are practically brand
that's
new,
right, too.
were empty and almost looked abandoned. They're not, but all of a sudden you see them starting to sprout businesses and people who are banking on, or even in some words betting on, the success of Albuquerque Rapid Transit.
So the whole corridor is getting spruced up.
Looking better and better. Art Truth number 11. Art will have 2 routes, Unser to Tramway and Unser to Louisiana and Uptown. It will run in dedicated lanes from Coors to Louisiana. Some of those lanes, not every area will have 2 lanes running down the middle. One of the misnomers of this whole thing is that people hear lanes and they think, okay, there are 2 lanes running completely, and that's not the case. Some neighborhoods will only experience 1 lane. One will be what they
Edo
call
and Nob Hill.
Yes, and one will be a bidirectional lane, meaning that when one bus is in there, one will stop and wait for it and go, but it's a small stretch. Another one will go, it's a reversible lane, going into town during the morning.
From 8th Street to Rio Grande.
And that goes into town in the morning, so it's going into town only. And then that lane will only be used to go out of town
West, during rush hour in the evening.
And so, this thing, and I know that there was a lot of public input. We maybe talk about that in just a minute, but the public told us about this, and it was something that they were able to craft.
A solution.
Yeah.
Right.
Our truth number 13, police, fire, and EMS will be able to use the dedicated bus lanes to avoid traffic delays and respond more quickly to those in need. We heard so much from people in these public meetings who said, well, what's going to happen if an ambulance or police are chasing somebody? Where are we supposed to go? Can we use the lanes? And the answer was no. Police can use the lanes.
Exactly.
It's going to be a lot more simple for them to be able to use the lanes. And then people asked us, where do the buses go? Well, the buses aren't on rails, so they can go.
They can pull out of traffic.
They can pull out of traffic. That's right. And once it's not like it's going to be a continuous stream of police cars or emergency vehicles for 15 minutes. One goes by, you get back in, and the other one's coming, you get back out. It's.
Well, they could conceivably go around in the oncoming art lane because they are professional drivers and they can do that. So anyway, yes, you've got it.
It's. Again, this has come through years of since 2012.
Discussions, yep.
Well, and this is what leads us into our truth number 14. Since 2012, there have been more than 19 public meetings, 10,000 door hangers distributed, a project website, social media, newsletters, a bilingual radio print ads, staff canvassing businesses door to door on Central, and presenting to neighborhood community groups regularly since 2014. There have been more than 19, I think it's something like 23 public meetings. And we're not talking about the private meetings that you and our director, Bruce Rosari, and others have done, our planners, with individual groups. I know there's at least 50 of those where you've presented to groups of maybe 100 or 200 more, and just being able to do that. And then when we had these public meetings, a lot of times we sat down and we said, okay, what do you need for your neighborhood? And those were incorporated as well. So this isn't something that necessarily sprang up in somebody's mind and we said,
We
okay,
just did it, yeah.
Yeah, because
Well, the application was so hard to do too. It took us 3 years to do the application for the grant money. So
gosh.
that was no minimal undertaking.
Well, and then speaking of
Oh,
that,
okay.
our Truth 15, all documents related to support
Yeah.
and opposition were provided to the FTA with the small starts application and briefings, and they have continued. Opponents of the project also sent letters directly to the FTA, and of course the FTA remains strong support of the project. We never wanted to disabuse anybody of the opportunity to speak their mind.
Absolutely.
This is a democratic society, so anybody anybody that's willing to be able to do this or be able to say something should. However, in presenting it, we presented all due diligence with the FTA. The FTA agreed. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't have been.
Well, on the courts too. You mentioned earlier about the lawsuit. I mean, everything was thoroughly vetted again. Everything that we had done, we had to supply, and they looked at it again from a legal perspective. And again, we had met every hurdle.
Now, before we go into that, I just wanted to ask you very briefly too about and while we still have the opportunity, we wanted to make sure that businesses along Central did not feel that they were somehow disenfranchised or that they were somehow being ignored. So a couple of things have come up. A program that has nothing to do with the city of Albuquerque, but it is kind of a grassroots organization that's come up called the Small Business Resource Collaborative.
Right.
And there's again, I'd be a little remiss if I didn't mention that so many media reports have characterized it as a city program, where it is not. However, this has gone out and they've made their contacts to businesses and they've told them, we can get you help of different kinds. Help with your website, help with your social media platforms, and possibly financial help. We heard just recently in our meetings that that they've done some pretty good work with these groups, and people have actually said, we can use the money.
Well, and a lot of folks, I mean, part of what they've done has been business consultants, and they have come alongside the small businesses because, for example, small businesses are all about running their business, maybe not so good at keeping up with their books. So when the Small Business Resource Collaborative showed up, they'd be here's a shoebox with my my books.
Wow.
You know, and so they have really modernized as well what they've been able to help improve their business.
And we've had these events since September 29th of 2016 called Art Beat on the Street. We're talking about organizing events, a lot of them, or most of them, with entertainment at these different locations. One of the best I can cite was just in June at Garcia's on
Yeah, it was
Central.
a lot of fun.
Over 100 people showing up, bands. What has the attendance been like on those?
So as you mentioned, we've had almost we're closing in on 30, and we've had over 2,000 people attend. You know, some events are small, but we've had as many as 300 people attend. So it's an off night for businesses, normally Thursday night. So we're encouraging people to get out and try new places to eat, shop, what have you. I have learned about a whole bunch of new places I didn't even know existed, so it's fun now. I mean, I have more information, and we have publicized these events on the billboards to try to turn out people, and it's been really successful. So much so is that the West End is doing their own, not West End, the West Downtown group, they're doing their own on Wednesday nights, as is the Bricklight District. They've taken our cue, and they're doing their own pop-up events.
They've kind of renamed themselves, haven't
They
they?
have, the West Downtown. I keep wanting to call them the West End. Yeah, they've got T-shirts, and if you buy one of their T-shirts, you get percentage off of all purchases in West Downtown on Wednesday nights.
And these folks want to keep the momentum going.
Yes, they do.
Beyond the art construction. In fact, a lot of people are thinking, well, when weather it permits, especially during the summer, we'd like to have our own little neighborhood nights.
Exactly, and that's exactly what we were looking for.
And you know, and this could end up spreading to other things as well, to other neighborhoods as well. We're also looking to do that. The big question is, when do you think that we will be able to see the buses going up and down Central?
Well, there'll be a time, not in the too distant future, where you'll see buses with our drivers practicing a little bit, but we won't go into operation until probably late fall.
And we are looking at a grand opening of some sort where,
Well, probably early November.
and in that grand opening, we're going to be able to have, we're going to try to see about getting people to come out and possibly ride.
Oh yeah, yeah. We'll have free rides that day. We'll have flash dances, flash mobs. Thank you, flash mobs. We'll have marching bands. We'll have all kinds of fun things going on that day. And then we're actually going to do a history tour too. There'll be a bus that'll drive along the route and tell people about Albuquerque history.
And we're looking to maybe say to people, be part of something that your grandkids are going to be reading about.
Yeah, part of history.
That, incredible. We are so fortunate. Thank you very much, first of all,
my
for
pleasure.
being here. Dana Crawford, the ABQ Ride Deputy Director and also the Project Manager for ART. But we're going to get a chance to, I'm hoping that maybe that you and I will be able to come back here in a couple of years and talk about all that we've been able to see
All
and
the
do.
successes,
Yeah,
I agree.
It's very, very exciting. In the meantime, until then, keep on watching along Central. Take a look at all the progress that's going on. I think you'll be surprised as well. And I think in a couple of years, you'll be pretty much tickled with what you see. In the meantime, that's it for us here. I'm Rick DeReyes from ABQ Ride. Hope you have a good day. Talk to you later.